In 2009, Steve Jobs lay unconscious in a hospital bed after a liver transplant. A doctor handed him an oxygen mask and said, "Wear this." But Jobs opened his eyes, studied it carefully, and shook his head. He wasn't satisfied. He demanded 5 more options so he could choose the best design. Think about that. On his hospital bed, fighting for his life, Jobs was still chasing perfection. This obsession defined him. It made him a genius, and it also cost him his life. When doctors discovered cancer, they advised surgery immediately. Jobs delayed it, hoping for alternative cures. That delay made things worse, and years later, it claimed his life. His final words? "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow." But who was this man really? Steve Paul Jobs was born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco. His real name at birth wasn't Steve. It was Abdul Latif Jandali. His biological parents were 2 students. His father from Syria, his mother of Swiss-German descent. Too young and unmarried, they gave Etch for adoption. But they had one condition. The adoptive parents had to promise he'd go to college. That promise was fulfilled by Paul and Clara Jobs, who raised him as their own. As a child, Steve's curiosity was wild, sometimes dangerous. Once, he shoved a pin into an electrical socket and burned his hand. Another time, he swallowed poison just to see what would happen. School bored him. He set off pranks, like slipping a snake into class or blowing up a teacher's desk with firecrackers. But behind the troublemaker was a restless mind, hungry to know how things worked. By 4th grade, his teacher realized Steve was far ahead of his peers and urged his parents to let him skip grades. Soon, growing up in Silicon Valley, surrounded by engineers, Steve found his playground. He dismantled radios, built circuits, and learned from mentors that even the most complicated machines were just puzzles waiting to be solved. At 17, he finally went to college, but tuition drained his parents' savings. Steve hated it. He dropped out, but called it the best decision of his life. Why? Because it gave him freedom. He crashed on friends' floors, collected Coke bottles for spare change, and walked miles for a free meal at a Hare Krishna temple. Yet, he also wandered into classes he loved, like calligraphy. Years later, that single decision gave Apple computers their beautiful fonts. Jobs' path wasn't straight. He went to India seeking spirituality. Back home, alongside Steve Wozniak, he founded Apple. The company exploded. But soon, Steve's intensity drove people away. At just 29, he was thrown out of the very company he had built. Most people would break, but Jobs built next. He bought Pixar, turning it into an animation empire. And when Apple was on the verge of collapse, they bought Next, bringing him back. That comeback would change the world. The iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad. Jobs didn't just invent products, he reinvented entire industries. His secret? Ruthless focus. In meetings, he would make teams list their top 10 goals. Then he'd cross out 7. Do 3 things and do them perfectly. His obsession with detail was legendary. When told about Gorilla Glass, he instantly ordered all of it for Apple, giving the iPhone its durability. Even hidden circuit boards inside devices had to be beautifully arranged. Because to Jobs, design wasn't just what you see, it was how things work. But that same obsession betrayed him. In 2003, doctors discovered a rare tumor in his pancreas. They urged immediate surgery. Jobs hesitated, hoping alternative diets and natural methods might cure him. Months slipped away. The cancer spread. Realizing his time was short, he invited Walter Isaacson to write his biography. "Why now?" Isaacson asked. Jobs' wife answered, "Because he knows he won't be here much longer." Steve never read that book, but he wanted the world to know the real story, the struggles, the flaws, and the genius behind the Apple empire. In October 2011, Steve Jobs passed away. He left behind not just a trillion-dollar company, but a legacy of curiosity, focus, and the relentless pursuit of perfection. A man who built the future, yet was undone by the very qualities that made him great.